Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Ruben is in here enjoying. Ruben's in here enjoying Ashford and Simpson. Today. Can we talk into the mics, people? If y'all gonna fight, let's
tell him leave me alone.
I told you I'm not no ringleader, man. If you got beef with that man, then you need to deal with it.
Getting on my nerves.
As long as it don't,
crying like a little
get
girl
crazy where someone is like beating somebody up. I mean, I don't want to have to peel you off of Ruben.
I'm just gonna
she ain't crazy.
Pop him over the head like cavemen used to do.
She ain't crazy. Usually that's the other way around.
Drag you out.
Because no woman ever popped a caveman in the head and dragged him.
This is 2013, baby. I'm dragging you.
I don't think so.
I like the Donkey Kong. That's what my sister said. Don't make me Donkey Kong. I was saying on her, I wouldn't do that because she was helping me.
She was helping. Ain't no half step on Marcus J. All right, listen, here's what I want to get into. We got the situation that's going on right now in Syria. And we know Syria is a country in the Middle East where they have allegedly, the United States claims to have evidence that the Syrian government has used chemical warfare against their own people in the use of sarin gas, which sarin, for those who don't know, affects the nervous system, causes you to go into all kinds of convulsions and things of that sort, and also causes you to lose control of your bodily functions up to and including the loss of being able to breathe, which is the way that these people die. And it's a very violent and painful death because after you lose control of your physical bodily functions, I mean, we're talking about not being able to control your bladder and bowels and things of that sort, and then you eventually, your heart stops, you can't breathe. And so the Syrian government has been accused of using this kind of chemical warfare against their own people. Now, the United States, and we know what our history in the world is, particularly our history in that part of the world, is that, and this is my opinion, I don't speak for the crew here, but my opinion is we like to try to be everybody's big freaking brother, and we want to jump in and try to, let me use an analogy. I'm going to go and knock on the door of my neighbor and say, you know what? I ain't been in there, but I know your house is dirty as hell. And I'm going to come in there. I'm going to clean your bathroom. I'm going to clean your living room. I'm going to wash all your dishes and all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, I'm a hoarder and I'm on that TV show.
You might want to go home first.
So, yeah, exactly. And so, again, my opinion. So this is the situation as I have it interpreted as why that we're living with. I don't know how much you paid attention to this, but there are polls out there that at least 6 in 10 Americans do not want to see us get involved here. And there are other polls that, depending on who you believe, that are varying levels of support. However, one thing that I can say for sure, the American people, every poll that I've seen, the American people don't want to get involved here, whereas President Barack Hussein Obama is mulling over. And another thing, and I know I keep talking, I'm going to get you in here, but another thing that I want to introduce here to this conversation is the fact that the president has the prerogative, if he really wanted to, he ain't got to ask for permission.
To do what he wants.
He can go in and bomb their asses if he want to and come back and say, I bombed them. Can I keep bombing them? He didn't have to ask for permission to do it first time. So he's setting precedent now by even asking for the permission to do it. Now, I got my feelings on that as well, but knowing what you know about the situation and the way we set it, what's your thoughts?
Well, one, you're right. I'm not keeping up on that, but I definitely believe we should mind our business once again. I don't think that he should get involved in that. I think that's going to be more danger, more of our people, and it's just too much setup. It's too much of a setup. We lose our troops, our people that way. Let them fight their own battles. And I think we should stop trying to play Big Brother. Big
Rube, when you hear the president, when there's precedent in the past of presidents going in and just handling their business, this president stopped before he decided to do that to ask permission from Congress. I don't seem to remember George Bush, the daddy, asking for permission to bomb Iraq when they invaded Kuwait. I don't seem to remember Bill Clinton asking for permission to bomb Yugoslavia. I don't seem to remember, any previous president asking for permission. We're not talking about an active declaration of war. We're talking about, an airstrike. The fact that this particular president has decided that he's going to stop and wait and ask for permission, some are viewing that as an act of weakness and an act of not showing leadership. What's your thoughts?
I mean, the reason why he asked is because he doesn't want to start World War III. If somebody else starts it, that's fine. Because what people seem to forget, of course, the people who are unintelligent and don't understand what's going on. Yeah, we should bomb them. No, idiots. Russia has joined the side of the people who are fighting for Syria and not Syria. So if we bomb them, then the Russians are going to bomb us. Hey, guess what? It's called World War III. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I kind of like living through a couple more years before we start bombing each other. Now I ain't talking about nukes and all that craziness, but I kind of want to live a couple more years. So how about we just, we just not do anything and just, mind our own business.
If we're looking at the region, if we're looking at basic geography, we know that the United States' biggest ally is Israel, which I still can't figure that. I still cannot figure out why we in bed with Israel the way we are. We ain't the ones that destroy Israel. Those were the Germans. You think that they'd be the ones that want to kiss Israel's ass instead of us, but I'm going to digress for a minute. But just think for a second about how this thing could play out. Like if we bomb Syria, Tony, I'm going to come to you on this one. We bomb Syria, like Ruben said, Russia's already come and said they got Syria's back. We also know that Russia is in bed with the Chinese, which we got a contentious relationship with them at best. So if we bomb Syria and Russia and China back them, and Russia and China and Syria decides to bomb us, or maybe not us, maybe our closest ally in the region, which is who? It's Israel, right? And I don't know about y'all, but if somebody punched your little brother in the face, whether he was right or wrong, what you gonna do? You gonna go fight, right? And so I don't know. Ruben alluded, Tony, to the potential for World War III, but I just can't seem to. I can't seem to, buy into this airstrike. What are your thoughts?
No, I mean, war never ends well. I mean, I understand the whole, and to me, it's still. A lot of people may disagree with this, is egos. It's egos on, who has the biggest weapons, we'll say. But absolutely, either way we do it, if we don't act, is this the president saying, okay, well, would you mind if I do it? Or would somebody else step in and do it, and then we'll step in and get their back? Either way, it's going to turn ugly, and it's going to turn ugly fast. I don't get the fact of, okay, you're saying that Syria has released these nerve agents killing these innocent people, so you drop bombs on innocent people. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't get that whole logic, because you may kill some of the bad guys, but you're still going to kill innocent people.
Collateral damage.
So the whole thing doesn't make sense to me. And I think we stick our noses where it doesn't belong. We have so many problems here on our own soil that need to be addressed. Even this school year, I can't wrap my head around the fact that high school students in Chesterfield County don't get free lunch. If they, for whatever reason, they've stopped doing that in high schools. So I think they still do it in elementary and middle school, but high school students, regardless of your family's financial situation, are no longer getting that support. And I think that's awful. So these kids, what are they supposed to do?
Right.
But you thinking about dropping bombs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're getting a hit on the Facebook social media from Toyana. She's given us an article from the New York Times that basically the byline that says that Obama tests limits of power in Syria conflict, which is the byline. You can go ahead and Google the New York Times article, or you can hit the Ain't No Half Steppin with Marcus J fan page if you want to read it. But it says in part, or her quote here is in part, the United States has used its armed forces abroad dozens of times without Security Council approval, but typically has invoked self-defense. When Reagan invaded Grenada in '83, for example, he cited the need to protect Americans on the island along with the request of neighboring countries. The most notable precedent for Syria crisis was Clinton's '99 bombing of Kosovo, but that was undertaken as part of NATO and in response to a time-urgent problem stopping the massacre number of citizens. And what I would like to introduce here to the conversation is, and I said this before, I got into it with Carlton Banks, who of course is not here to defend his point, so I won't attack him, but I made a big deal about discussing the President of the United States representing Chicago, Illinois, and that is a domestic incident that is so out of control that none of us could really put our finger on what the hell can happen. I mean, we're laymen here. We're not politicians. We're not, the kind of scholars who can come up with a plan to fix it. I mean, we're intelligent people, so we, of course, can be part of the solution. But as far as coming up with a magical plan to fix it, who the hell knows? But we're concerned about 150 people, not even children in part of that number, but 150 people who got gassed in freaking Syria. But 300 and something people already just in freaking September have been murdered in his hometown, and we haven't heard a word on it. And I know that I'm going to take some heat about this because you'll get people to say, well, that's not the president's job. The president's job is to deal with the bigger issue. You got the local government. That's bullshit, because the reality is, you know what, the people who run that town clearly ain't doing it right. And it's the president's job to have oversight. And if we can be concerned about what's going on, Ruben, in another country, then help me understand why it's so difficult for a person like me who's raising a 10-year-old right now to not be angry about the fact that we time after time always seem to stick our noses in stuff that ain't got nothing to do with us. And here we go, ending up in a long campaign of nonsense. I mean, before this, it was Iran. We didn't get into it with them, but we almost did. We're still dealing with Afghanistan and Iraq and Kosovo and Viet freaking Nam. I mean, really, Ruben, help me understand the culture of the United States and why we continue to get into this crap.
Well, I mean, it's really simple. Basically, we are learning from our predecessors, and because for some reason we have deemed ourselves, the what is it called, the free,
the leaders of the free world.
Yeah, I mean, this world ain't free. United States ain't free, but I understand what they're saying. But I'm sorry, I'm sick of picking at everybody else's business when we got all the homeless thing going on, and like you said, people dying in Chicago every day. And all this other craziness, we can't even fix that. But as far as I've spoken on the Chicago thing, probably way too much personally. I mean, you're right. He needs to go in there and at least fire some people or something. But it's one of those things. Is the basic problem with that is if you go into Chicago, then the president is going to be expected to go into every city in the United States of America, and he just can't do that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that physically, he cannot physically do that. And that's the only problem that I see with it. I do agree that he probably should try to do something, but then you're going to have, people in Chesterfield like, President, all my cats won't stay out the trees. I need you to come and help me out. And it just can't go out. It can't go like that. But I understand your feelings, and I feel you. It's just, he can't do that because he can't do that for everybody.
All right, well, let me ask you this. Let me paint a scenario, an analogy for you.
Paint it.
You live on a 10-acre farm.
Yep.
Okay? Live on a 10-acre farm, and you got all kinds of crazy issues and things like that on your 10-acre farm. You got sick goats, and you got fences down, and you got all that kind of stuff going on. Your animals are sick and dying off and all that stuff, but you're not paying attention to your farm, because your neighbor's farm down the street, he's got a 1-acre farm, right? And it's real bad over there. In your opinion, it's just as bad, it may even be worse. And so you spend your time down the road helping your neighbor with his 1-acre farm while your 10-acre farm is a mess. Now, you're not dealing with your 10-acre farm because the overseers of the multiple 10 acres, you feel like they should be able to handle it. And if you help one, then, it's still your farm. But if you help one overseer, the other one might feel some kind of way about that. You see how that doesn't work for me? You see how that argument to me just doesn't work. Because if I can drive down Maury Street here in Richmond, Virginia, and I can see a ton of homeless people, right? And I could turn on the television and I could see a whole bunch of people sick in Syria. Tell me which one that I should care more about. Should I care more about the people in Syria, or should I care more about the homeless people right here, not just in my local town of Richmond, Virginia, but in my country of the United States? Like, tell me why I should care more about Syria. Tell me why I can go to Detroit and buy a house for $9 because the neighborhood is shit, but I want to spend billions of dollars bombing another country because they done made 200 people sick. I mean, come on, man, really? That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. And I need someone, to call me up and tell me that I'm tripping. 804-402-2893. I mean, I see everybody giving me the affirmative faces. I guess you guys agree with me.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, I mean, I'm not even looking at you because you're not as good looking as the ladies.
We need to
I'm actually looking at them.
We need to take care of home first.
But Ruben, feel free. I mean, you and I spend a lot of time debating everything. So let's debate this. Tell me why, in the analogy of the 10-acre farm where you got crap going on that you ain't paying attention to because you don't want to make one of your overseers feel some kind of way, you much prefer go help your neighbor down the street with his 1-acre farm. Help me understand why that's okay.
I think your analogy is flawed.
Please tell me why it's flawed.
The reason why it's flawed is because the number amount matters. 10 acres and one dude down the street, of course you're going to say, well, yeah, you should probably work on your 10 acres. Now, you change that to 1 million acres and the one dude down the street, completely different answer. I'm not trying to sit here and say he's doing the right thing. I'm just basically saying that I feel you with the Chicago stuff. However, when it's all said and done, it's all about numbers. And I don't think he should really be in Syria either. But then if he was here, should he be focusing on Chicago? Because we focus on Chicago, then he's got to focus on Jacksonville. Focus on Jacksonville, he's got to focus on Richmond. Focus on Richmond, he's got to focus on L.A. Focus on L.A., got to focus on San Diego. And, my thing is, he is one person, and you're talking about 1 billion locations, 1 million locations. The analogy that you had was solid until you said 10 acres. When you said 10 acres, you pretty much devalued the country. Because basically you're saying, well, we only got 10 problems in this country, and, he should be able to take care of all of them. Well, that's not true, and that's not fair.
But you have to look at, you said that, he's one person, but it's a domino effect. You look at places like LA when the gangs were terrible. People get to a point where they can't take anymore. If you see somebody who's taking action, everybody else is going to follow suit. Mm-hmm. Chicago is one of the worst places. And Marcus mentioned Detroit. Like, how does a city like Detroit, which was booming at one time, it's bankrupt? Like, how does an entire city become bankrupt and basically a place for druggies and drug dealers? That's pretty much what it is at this point.
Well, the reason what happened in Detroit, unfortunately, you put all your eggs in one basket with the Ford plants out there, and Ford made a bad decision. And that's what happened in Detroit.
But it's still a part of our country, and don't just forget about it because things went wrong.
But I'm not saying you can't forget about it, but you can't sit here and say it's fair for the president to go to every place that has a problem and fix it. He can't.
That's what we elected him to do. We didn't just say, okay, we'll take care of like DC or LA
and I think that's
Miami.
And that's the difference between why people elect certain people. Because I didn't elect him to do that because I know he cannot do that. And if you say he should be able to do that, that is unfair. Because you can't sit here and put one person in charge of 500 kids. That's unfair.
He was elected to help the United
But I was hired.
States of America.
But I was also hired to watch 500 children. That's not fair.
And you hire people to help you watch those. But
here's the thing. Here's where I think you're flawed, Ruben. I think you're flawed because I'm not going to help one of my minions because I don't want to offend the other ones. I mean, that's crazy to me. I would much prefer to spend my time helping the neighbors because if I help my own, if I help one of my 10 kids, the other 9 going to be mad. So instead of helping one of my 10, I'm going to go help the neighbor's kids.
And once again,
now all your kids are mad.
And now, I mean, I want to temper this. We're getting a call here on the live line. Joining us, we got my main man K Dub, who's listening to us, and he can't wait to get in. Dub, you got the floor. What's up, brother?
What's going on, family? Hey, I think that I agree with you what you're saying in regards to needing to take care of what's going on here. But I think if we take a step back and just look at it, it really it points to the hypocrisy of us as a nation. You think about all of the different times that we have done similar actions to other countries, as well as here within the United States. Within the United States, you had the situation in Waco. You also had a situation here in the United States back in the 50s where the Army tested chemicals against poor black people in St. Louis, and then overseas you got gallons of chemicals being put on in Vietnam. You have Israel attacked Palestine. You had the United States attack Iraqi civilians with white phosphorus. You had the CIA give Saddam Hussein chemicals so that he could massacre Kurds and Iranians. So there's a lot of different instances throughout the country's history that speaks to this similar situation, but it also speaks speaks more to the point of our hypocrisy. We're going to go into another country and kind of reprimand them because they're doing this, but yet in our history we have done it to other people as well as we've done it to our people. So, I mean, again, I agree definitely with what you're saying and what have you, but, that's just one example of the country's hypocrisy.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you calling in with that perspective, man. Real quick before I let you go, your man T. Hunt is listening to us. Give him some love.
Oh, I didn't hear you say it one more time.
I said your man T. Hunt is listening to us. Give him some love.
T. Hunt, what's up, baby? Shout out to my man T. Hunt in Delaware, holding it down, University of Maine, and I shouted you out too the other day. Boy, hit me back.
That's what it is, K-Dub. I'll holler at you later, brother. We got your man T. Hunt who's listening to us, who says that he understands my position. We get involved way too much and not enough at home. Reminds me of the nosy neighbor on the block. I don't want to misrepresent, Ruben, what your position is, because I think we agree that making a stand in Syria or a bombing in Syria and anything like that is not appropriate. However, I think where we're disagreeing is the level of importance that's put on certain things, in this particular case, foreign issues with human rights issues in foreign countries, where we got human rights issues in this country that we can certainly address. And the reality is the amount of money that we have in this country. I mean, we can talk about recessions, and we can talk about people losing money and unemployment, which in the black community is 13%, whereas everywhere else, like I think overall it just dropped to 7%, but for us black folk it's 13%. So we got issues there that the president could spend some time trying to figure out instead of worrying about 200 people that got gassed in another freaking country. But I get all of that, but help me rationalize why, because when we took that call from K-Dub, and I didn't get you an opportunity to kind of finish your point. Help me understand why it's okay to help out the neighbor, but you don't want to help out your own because you don't want to offend some of your own. I mean, I don't understand that logic.
Well, I think that you don't understand the logic because the logic is not legitimate. I mean,
but it was what you said.
No.
So what you saying? You're not legitimate? That is what you said.
That's not what I said.
All right. Well, go ahead. The floor is yours.
No, I said that I understand. I don't think we need to be in Syria, period. I think we don't need to do anything over there. We should mind our own business. But then my point was strictly on the fact where you feel like that the president needs to spend 80% of his time or 70% of the time or whatever, some large amount into the city of Chicago. But my thing is you can't do that because then you'll be expected to go to every place and do the same thing. And I do not think, one, that is fair. However, I do feel as though something needs to be looked at in Chicago. I don't know if the president is the one to do that. Maybe he needs to say, yo, underling, you need to go handle that and find out what's going on, because Chicago apparently is a bad place right now. But I just don't think that because he was born and raised in Chicago, or well, he wasn't born in Chicago, because he was in Chicago, he was raised in Chicago, he needs to be like, well, that's my hood, I need to go handle my hood, because then it's like, well, what about everywhere else? Like, well, he come to Richmond to handle the homeless in Richmond. I mean, he's a man, he cannot physically do all of that. Now, if he says, all right, we're going to handle this killing stuff around the country, that's one thing. But to say, hey, Chicago, I'm coming to town, you know, you need to straighten your stuff up, yada, 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 and I'm going to spend X amount of time here to get this done, yada. No, that's not fair. That's my opinion on it.
Okay, and here's where I think your opinion is flawed, because you didn't like my 10 acres to 1 acre analogy and all of that stuff. So I'll make it even simpler, and we'll say, look at your own house. Look at your own house and your own apartment. You know what? I'm not going to clean my bedroom because I'm not going to have time to get to the bathroom. I mean, it's flawed logic. It really is. I'm not going to clean my bedroom because I'm not going to have time to get to my bathroom. So instead of cleaning my bedroom, I'm going to go clean my neighbor's bedroom. Because if I don't clean my bedroom and my bathroom, I'm going to have a real messy house, and I don't want to go in that other room because I'm not going to have time to get to it.
Let's just stop talking about the neighbor for a second. You know, and you said you don't want to clean your own bedroom. Okay, what? You don't want to clean the country. Okay, what? So I got to start in Chicago? What if it was in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
I'm using Chicago. I use Chicago simply because he's from there,
That's
and because he's from there, and because Chicago is real messed up right now. But we got so many problems in this country that you ain't got to start there. You can start with, you can start with the fact that Detroit, a major city in this country, just filed bankruptcy. You can start with the fact that Flint, Michigan is pretty much the lowest level of poverty in the entire freaking country. You can start with the gang violence and the crazy stuff that's going on in Miami. You can talk about a whole bunch of stuff. And you got the person, you know, with Eric Holder, who is basically the head of the judicial system in the country, who you can put as the head of a committee to deal with certain kinds of things in your own country. Why can't we do that? Why can't we be the president? Why can't he be the president who specifically makes it a point of saying, I understand that this is a problem and I am going to deal with it. Whether he be the one who leads that charge or not, for me, is not something that's necessary. But you need to show certain levels of your constituency, which I am a part of, that this is something that's a priority, and not 200 people that got gassed in Syria. You know why? Because it's going to make me wonder, why those people over there are more important than the people here? Is it your interest over there? Okay, it's your interest over there. What interests are those? Don't give me this crap about world security, because we over here, they over there. So if you wild out over there, what they going to do? They're going to bomb your friend. They're going to bomb Israel, which will make you have to do something because of your relationship with them. But at the end of the day, if you had the kind of policies that show that you cared more about your own than everybody else, then you wouldn't be constantly put in the position to have to defend everybody.
The reason why it's not that way, because it's not set up to be that way. The presidency, I'm going to drop it. I'm just going to go ahead and drop it right now. People are like, whatever. The presidency, the whole judicial, everything is nothing but a pyramid scheme. That's it. That's all it is. Just like, hey, you have the lead bosses down here, which are the mayors of the cities, and then you have the cities, you answer to the governor. And then the governor answers to Congress, and that sort of thing. That's why the president has not taken a specific look at certain different things, because honestly, he's like, yo, you over there, you in charge of this. You need to handle that. And, you know, and that's how it is. That's the way the whole thing is set up. It's set up for him not to handle things of that stature. He's supposed to handle the big things, the public things. Because remember, the president, when it's all said and done, the president is nothing but a public figure who is really not in charge of much of anything.
I agree with that.
So,
but I mean, if we're going to talk about that, then we can talk about who really runs the country.
Well, Congress really runs the country.
If you think it's Congress, then you're not hearing me then.
Well, hold on. But I mean, you can take it there if you like. But ultimately, it's set up with the checks and balances, so nobody can do one thing or another. But that's why, like I said, the president hasn't talked about. I mean, he talked about Chicago once or whatever, but that's why he hasn't done anything in that, because he's like, yo, you're the man of Chicago. Yo, you're the governor of Illinois. You need to handle this.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Has this president had any signature domestic issue aside from the Healthcare Act, which obviously we know that that's his signature, but has he had anything that was a signature that historians will say that this was a big deal for him? And the first thing that comes to mind when you think of this, example that I'm giving, like if you think about Ronald Reagan, first thing for me domestically that comes to mind is say no to drugs, right? So
his wife did.
But he's attached to that because it's his wife. But reality is he gets credit for that because that was his wife while he was the president. So will this president have anything domestically that he'll be able to hang his hat on other than the Healthcare Act, which nobody likes anyway?
Well, I mean, right now that's the only thing. But the last president, what does he have to hang his hat on?
Well, the reality is, I don't think anybody in this room, and I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think anybody in this room thinks that the last guy was a good president anyway. So I'm not going to sit and say that he did anything great domestically or foreignly because I don't think he was a good president. He was a great guy. I would love to have a beer with George Bush Jr. He likes baseball. I like baseball, but I don't think he was a good president. So for you to present that guy to me wouldn't be good for me because I can't think of anything.
What about Clinton?
Well, I don't like Clinton either because Clinton to me single-handedly, well not single-handedly, but had a big hand in a destruction of large communities because of the way he wrote those drug laws. And those drug laws, of course, you got a crack rock, you go to jail forever, and you got more powder in your pocket than the next guy with rock, and you get, country club jail. And who you think crack rock was targeted for? Crack rock was for us, whereas powdered cocaine was for other people. So, no, I can't give you Clinton either because that, to me, we talking about 20 years ago, and those people still in jail. Mm-hmm. And they ain't coming home no time soon. They still in jail. Destroyed generations of families. So when people give me this Bill Clinton was the first black president, first of all, ain't no white man, no black dude. First of all, that's first thing. And the second thing is it offends me when you try to say that he is, especially when you talk about how great he was for our community, when that to me was so much worse than anything positive that he did.
So we have Carter and we have, who was before Carter?
You don't even know your presidents. Make your point, man.
But I'm just saying, I don't think any president has real one signature thing that's positive. I mean, I guess you want to say Reagan has just say no, but Reagan didn't really do that. You could say Reaganomics, but Reaganomics end up kind of messing stuff up later. I mean, I think that we're expecting that this man to come in here and just completely change the way everything's done. I kind of feel like we're putting way too much on him. And that's just me.
I can dig it. We'll have to agree to disagree. I'm going to get one more comment from social media, then we need to move on. Sabrina's saying the U.S. has to set a standard, can't have them coming over here, and that you have to send them a message. So basically what she's saying is we need to go and get them before they get us, is my interpretation of what she's saying. If I'm misrepresenting you, please call in and correct me or hit me on social media and correct me. T. Hunt is saying if he feels the need or the government feels the need to get involved so often in foreign affairs, then he should be held responsible and take care of all the problems at home as well, and really first, which I 100% agree with that, because that's always been what my position is. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we got a word from our sponsor, we got a missing child, and then we have got an interview that I am very, very, very happy and proud and excited to give with Priscilla Prender, who is a director of operations at Striker Pose Modeling Studio in Jersey City, New Jersey, and also the awards coordinator for Jersey City Fashion Week. So we're going to get into that, a little entertainment stuff that we're going to get into, and then we'll have a segment from SY and what the hell going to end the show. So we still got a whole lot of show for you here. Ain't no half step with Marcus J, with SY, Tony, and Big Rube here in studio. Stay with us. We'll be back in a few. It's real.